What's up guys, Manime here, and today I want to talk about an anime that I have just recently fell in love with, and that anime is My Hero Academia. Generally this wouldn't be that big of a deal except for the fact that I actually have a prejudice against superhero anime. This is mostly due to me living in America where literally every third movie is about some sort of superhero, so needless to say, I wasn't exactly hyped for this anime. Nevertheless, this anime pulled me in from episode 1 and essentially never let go, which brought up a good question. Why do I like this superhero anime but not others? And to me, there was one glowing characteristic, or should I say character. In one of my previous videos, I discussed relatable but mean characters in anime, and I ended the video on a question. If you guys had to choose, what would you prefer? Relatable main characters or likable main characters? Then of course I followed it up with some sort of joke about how you can never get both, but that's not entirely true. Every great once in a while you manage to get a character who is relatable and likable in a way that actually makes sense, and of course that leads us into talking about Midori. Midori is the main character of the anime My Hero Academia and has instantly carved himself a spot in the anime community's heart, and for good reason. Midori's success is mostly due to just how well he's written, how he develops as a character, and how outside forces affect him. So today let's break down what makes Midori such an excellent character and prove to the world why character design may just be the most important aspect to writing. So let's begin by describing Midori. Midori is a huge fan of superheroes in a world where 80% of people are born with some sort of power. Midori hopes to become one of the most popular superheroes after seeing All Might, the biggest celebrity in superheroes. Unfortunately, Midori ends up being part of this 20% group of people without superpowers, basically ruining his dreams to become a hero. Yet despite this, Midori is essentially a natural-born hero. He never resists running into the fray despite the fact that he may not even be able to help and is often not even able to. Then, like magic, he gets to meet All Might, and All Might decides to give him his superpowers. Now, this meeting is extremely important because this is where the good writers are separated from the bad writers. First, we get to see that All Might is far from all-powerful. Actually, he's essentially dying, hence why he's okay with giving up his powers. This helps separate us from the classic tropes like the all-powerful sensei. We know that his time is limited. Secondly, Midori doesn't just get All Might's powers. A lot of shows just thrust some ridiculous superpowers onto the characters, and the story revolves around them discovering their limitless strength. This is a common writing technique that most anime have trouble getting over. Actually, make that most writers have trouble getting over. You see, when you build a main character, you're supposed to hit them with what's called the brick strategy, where you literally throw a brick at them, and then another, and just beat the shit out of them at every freaking corner. If you lay out this golden path for your main character, no one really cares. You see, if you just put any character in that position with an easy path, then of course they will follow it. The idea behind the brick strategy is that it's not the easiest path. We want to root for the guy who's intentionally choosing the hard path and has to beat each new hidden challenge with both their strength and their intelligence. Midori does this. He trains the entire summer pushing himself to extremes, and what is his reward? A power that he can't even use without violently damaging his own body. Once again, this is another brick to mess up his day, yet he stays strong and continues to damage his bodies in hopes of one day being able to handle his powers. Most writers don't do this because it's a challenge to be mean to characters you are emotionally invested in, yet this is the only way to get other people to be emotionally invested in your characters also. I also want to talk about how Midori must evolve as a character. Character development is a key part in this show, but no one ever seems to change as much as Midori. Midori starts off as someone who's weak physically, but weak mentally in some respects also, mostly in the sense of not standing up for himself. The hardest trial Midori is forced to overcome is confidence in himself. At the beginning of the anime, he struggles heavily with this and is always giving into peer pressure. But slowly through season 1, we begin to see a change in Midori. We see him go from someone who has no confidence in themselves to someone who has some confidence in themselves. The same goes for his strength. Midori is clearly very strong, but nowhere near strong enough to use his powers without injury. This is pretty amazing because we are seeing his progression into someone who is both strong mentally and physically. But like us, it doesn't happen overnight or in some training montage. It takes time. The final thing I want to focus on for this anime is how Midori deals with exterior forces. These forces being the metaphorical bricks I was talking about earlier. This is what makes Midori likable. He works as hard as he can, but that doesn't always mean he gets what he wants. Even after doing everything that All Might ask, he's finally gifted these powers that he can't even use, but he doesn't give up. Instead, he thinks of ways around the system in order to achieve his goals. Instead of breaking his entire arm, he can just break a single finger to pass in his class. He doesn't just grow stronger, but he must also become smarter. He can't just brute force his way through these exterior forces because that doesn't always work. he must learn to outsmart them. As for what makes Midoriya relatable is the feeling of being disadvantaged. This is not your classic superhero born with powers and were given tons of help. From the beginning of the anime, the cards seem stacked against him. I think a lot of people understand how that feels and can relate to the struggle of breaking through these barriers. Midoriya isn't given any special advantages and must work twice as hard as everyone else to achieve his goals. But as usual, this is all just my opinion. Let me know if you guys can think of any main characters that are as well written as Midoriya. If you guys like this kind of content, please consider supporting me on Patreon. I make 2 anime related videos a week. As usual, make sure you guys share, like, comment, and subscribe. This is Matt. Make sure you guys say, man, go watch that goddamn anime!